Okay, let's get into what has to be one of the greatest, the ultimate best friend breakup in medieval history.
It really is. We're talking about a huge clash between, political power and spiritual loyalty.
And the two people at the center of it were once inseparable, King Henry II and his Chancellor, Thomas Becket.
Right, but this is so much more than just a personal fight. This is the 12th century, and you have this collision of institutions. Henry II is this super ambitious, energetic king.
He wants total control.
Total control over England and his lands in France. And for a while, Becket was the perfect guy to help him get it.
Until he wasn't. They went from being called, what was it, one heart and one mind.
That's the quote.
Hmm.
And they went from that to a battle that ends in, well, a shocking murder that changes the relationship between kings and the church for hundreds of years.
So today we're going to trace exactly how these two friends became deadly enemies, how their shared goals just completely fell apart and created this huge international crisis.
It's a fascinating story.
So let's start with Becket. Who was this guy? He wasn't born into royalty or anything.
Yeah, not at all. He was born around 1118 in London. His family were merchants, pretty successful ones, of Norman descent.
So his intelligence was his way up, not his family name.
Absolutely. He got a great education, even studied in Paris for a bit. He was smart, ambitious, and just had this real talent for administration.
And that talent gets him a job, right? A pretty important one.
A huge one. He becomes a clerk for the Archbishop of Canterbury, Theobald of Bec. That's the highest church authority in all of England.
The ultimate foot in the door. He studies law, he travels, and he becomes this organizational genius. He rises pretty fast, even becomes Archdeacon of Canterbury. So he's already a big deal in the church before the king even enters the picture.
And the king enters in 1154, Henry II. He's young, just 21, and the kingdom he inherits is a bit of a mess.
So he needs smart, loyal people to help him clean it up.
Exactly. And the Archbishop recommends Becket, points to his legal skills, his efficiency.
And Henry doesn't just hire him, he makes him Lord Chancellor. That's the top job, isn't it?
It's the highest executive officer. You're in charge of the whole government machine, and the two of them just clicked.
And weren't just king and advisor, they were friends.
True friends. They hunted together, traveled together. Henry was known for his temper, but he saw Becket as his intellectual equal. He trusted him completely.
And Becket loved the lifestyle.
Oh, he embraced it, lived this incredibly lavish life. We read about him wearing expensive silk clothes, throwing these huge parties.
He even led military campaigns for Henry in France.
He did.
Yeah.
Successfully. For about 8 years, he was the king's guy, through and through. That's what makes the betrayal, or what Henry saw as a betrayal, so much worse.
Right. He didn't just feel defied by an official. He felt stabbed in the back by a brother.
Which brings us to the big mistake. Henry's massive miscalculation.
Okay, so if Becket is so clearly the king's man, a man of politics and ambition, what did Henry do that changed everything?
Well, in 1162, Archbishop Theobald dies. The top job in the English church is now open.
And Henry sees his chance.
He sees his chance to finally get the church under his thumb. The church was like a state within the state, and Henry wanted to end that.
So he appoints his best friend, his chancellor, Thomas Becket, as the new Archbishop of Canterbury.
He thinks, perfect. I put him there. He owes me. I control the church now.
And that's where the whole story just takes this dramatic, tragic turn.
It really does. Becket accepts the job, though he was a bit hesitant. But the second he is officially consecrated as Archbishop, something changes.
A complete transformation.
Immediate and, radical. He gives up the fancy clothes for simple robes. He stops the lavish lifestyle. His entire focus shifts.
He's not the king's man anymore.
He's the church's protector. And this just stuns Henry and the whole royal court. Henry had given him moral and spiritual authority, and Becket decided to actually use it.
So the clash was bound to happen. And it centered on this one legal issue, the clerk convicts. What was that all about?
It was about who had the ultimate legal power. For a long time, clergy members, and that was a lot of people, not just priests, had something called benefit of clergy.
Which meant if they committed a crime, even a serious one like murder, they were tried in church courts.
Right. And church courts were known for being, lenient. They didn't really hand out death sentences. It was more about penance.
So Henry saw this as chaos. He wanted these criminals, these clerk convicts, handed over to his royal courts for real punishment after the church court was done.
Becket's argument was that you can't be punished twice for the same crime. But really, this wasn't just about the law.
It was about power.
It was absolutely about sovereignty. Becket was saying the church was independent of the king, that it answered to a higher authority, the Pope in Rome, If Henry could control church punishments, he was putting himself above the church.
And Henry took that as a personal attack, so he decides to force the issue.
Which leads us to 1164 and the Constitutions of Clarendon. Henry basically calls a big meeting and lays down 16 new rules for the church.
And these weren't suggestions.
No, they were demands. Demands designed to crush the church's power.
So what were the big ones, the ones that really hit at the church's independence?
Two things, really. First, no high-ranking church official could leave England without the king's permission.
Which cuts them off from the Pope.
Exactly. And second, the clergy couldn't appeal any legal case to the Pope without the king's approval. That was the killer blow. It made Henry the final authority, not Rome.
And Becket, under a lot of pressure, he initially agreed to it.
He did, but he regretted it almost immediately. He took back his oath, saying he'd betrayed his duty to God. That was a public slap in the face to the king.
So Henry decides to destroy him. He calls Becket to a trial, not about the constitutions, but on these old, trumped-up charges of financial misconduct from when he was chancellor.
It was a political hit job. Becket knew his life was in danger.
And so she runs.
He flees England in secret, in disguise, crosses the Channel to France, and begins a 6-year exile.
But he doesn't just go quiet, does he? He's now living under the protection of Henry's rival, King Louis VII of France.
And he starts using the one weapon he has left, excommunication.
We should probably explain how serious that was. This isn't just getting kicked out of a club.
No, I mean, for a person in the Middle Ages, excommunication was terrifying. It meant you were cut off from the Christian community. No sacraments, no last rites. You were basically condemned to hell.
And politically, it was a disaster. If a lord was excommunicated, his subjects didn't have to obey him anymore. Becket started threatening Henry's key supporters with it.
So you have this stalemate. The Pope is trying to make peace, but neither Henry nor Becket will back down.
Until Henry does something that is just a deliberate, calculated insult.
Yes, in 1170. While Becket's still in France, Henry decides to have his eldest son crowned as co-ruler to secure the succession.
And the one person who's supposed to perform a royal coronation is the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Always. But Henry has the Archbishop of York do it instead. It was a direct message. You are irrelevant.
That move finally forces the Pope's hand. He pressures Henry into this shaky peace deal, and Becket is allowed to return to England in December 1170.
But he does not come back humbled. Not at all. He's greeted by these huge crowds of cheering people who see him as a hero.
And he immediately shows his cards. Before he even steps on English soil, he sends out letters excommunicating the bishops who took part in the illegal coronation.
It's the ultimate act of defiance.
So those bishops run straight to Henry in Normandy and complain, and this is the moment Henry just snaps.
Yes. The story goes that in a fit of rage, he yells something like, "Will no one rid me of this troublesome priest?"
Not a direct order to kill him?
No, it was an outburst.
Yeah.
But 4 of his knights, Reginald Fitzurse, William de Tracy, Hugh de Morville, and Richard le Breton, they heard it.
And they took it as an order.
They took it as a royal command. They immediately sailed for England.
So we get to December 29th, 1170. The knights arrive at Canterbury.
They confront Becket in his palace. They demand he lift the excommunications. He refuses.
He then goes into Canterbury Cathedral for the evening service. The monks see the armed knights coming and they try to bolt the doors.
But Becket stops him. He says a house of prayer isn't a fortress, and that he's ready to die for the church. It's an incredibly dramatic moment.
The knights find him near the altar. They try to drag him out, but he resists, and so they just attack him.
They strike him down with their swords. Murdered right there on the floor of the cathedral.
The sacrilege of it is just unimaginable. To kill an archbishop inside the holiest church in England, the whole Christian world was horrified.
It was a political catastrophe for Henry. He claimed he never wanted Becket dead, but nobody really believed him.
So he had to do something big to show he was sorry?
A huge public penance. He walks barefoot through Canterbury and lets the monks publicly whip him at Becket's tomb.
Think about that. The most powerful king in Europe being whipped by monks. It just shows how immense the fallout was.
And the church moves fast. Just 3 years later, in 1173, the Pope declares Thomas Becket a saint.
And his tomb becomes one of the most popular pilgrimage sites in Europe.
For centuries. His death essentially guaranteed that the church would win this fight. Henry had to back down on the constitutions of Clarendon, and the church kept its legal independence.
It's an incredible story of how moral authority can sometimes challenge pure political might. Henry had the armies and the money.
But Becket, by choosing martyrdom, wielded a spiritual power that humbled the king and echoed for generations. His death ensured the church's autonomy in a way his life never could.
So here's something to think about. We often see history as being shaped by wars or treaties, but in this case, a massive historical shift came from the violent death of one man who chose his conscience over his own safety. It makes you wonder, where are the limits of state power today?
Good luck with your studies.